On the evening of the 9th of June 1912, the small town of Villisca, Iowa, was a picture of peaceful, quiet domesticity. The air was warm, and the streets were filled with the gentle sounds of a community winding down for the night. Families were returning from church services, and children were still playing in the streets under the soft, fading summer light. It was a typical Sunday in the Midwest, where neighbors greeted each other with familiar smiles and no sense of impending dread. Little did they know that the respected Moore family, Josiah, Sarah, and their 4 children, would soon face a truly unimaginable tragedy. The Moore family was well regarded in town, known for their kindness and their active involvement in local community and church life. The household also included 2 young house guests, the Stillinger sisters, who were staying over for what should have been a normal night. Ina and Lena Stillinger were excited for the sleepover, unaware that their visit would intersect with a dark, unfolding nightmare. These 8 individuals would soon become the center of one of the most horrifying and enduring unsolved crimes in American history. As the clock ticked toward midnight, the town of Villisca settled into a deep, heavy silence that masked the danger lurking nearby. Investigators later pieced together a chilling timeline, suggesting that the killer had been lurking in the attic for many hours. The perpetrator waited patiently in the darkness, watching and listening for the moment the house lights finally went out for good. Evidence of cigarette butts found in the rafters suggested the killer had been observing the family's movements long before the attack. It was a calculated, patient wait, turning the family's own home into a trap while they slept, completely unaware of the threat. In the dead of night, the murderer moved through the house with a brutal, calculated efficiency that defied all human reason. The transition from a peaceful home to a scene of carnage happened with terrifying speed, leaving no room for any warning. Using an axe as their weapon, the assailant claimed 8 lives while they slept, leaving no chance for escape or defense. The attack was systematic, beginning with the parents and moving through the rooms where the children and guests were resting. The subsequent discovery of the crime scene revealed bizarre, unsettling details, such as covered mirrors and the victims' faces being obscured. These strange actions suggested a perpetrator who lingered in the home long after the violence had ceased, showing a cold detachment. Investigators were baffled by the presence of a bowl of bloody water and the fact that food had been left behind. It appeared the killer had taken time to clean up or perform ritualistic acts, adding a layer of psychological horror to the scene. The following morning, the silence of the Moore household became a source of growing concern for neighbors and local friends. When the family failed to appear for their morning chores, the realization that something was terribly wrong began to take hold. Family members eventually entered the home, only to be met with the gruesome reality of what had occurred during the night. Word of the massacre spread through the small town like wildfire, drawing crowds of onlookers to the property within hours. The influx of curious citizens unfortunately compromised the crime scene, destroying potential evidence before authorities could secure the area. This chaotic response would haunt the investigation for decades, as critical clues were trampled under the feet of the public. As news reached the national press, the entire country became obsessed with the mystery of the Villisca Axe Murders. Newspapers printed sensational headlines, fueling rampant speculation about who could commit such a heinous act against a family. The lack of clear motive left the public searching for answers, questioning how such a tragedy could happen without a sound. Rumors circulated about potential suspects, ranging from local rivals to mysterious drifters passing through on the rail lines. One prominent suspect was Reverend George Kelly, a traveling minister whose odd behavior and shifting confessions drew intense scrutiny. Despite his repeated admissions of guilt, the legal evidence against him remained frustratingly weak, leading to his eventual acquittal. Another figure of interest was Frank Jones, a local businessman who had previously employed Josiah Moore and held a grudge. While many believe Jones might have orchestrated the crime, no concrete proof ever surfaced to link him to the murders. As the years passed, the case grew colder, leaving investigators to wonder if the killer was someone hiding in plain sight. Decades later, researchers proposed a more terrifying theory, that a serial killer was responsible for a string of similar crimes. They pointed to other axe murders across the country that shared the same chilling hallmarks of covered mirrors and sleeping victims. The idea of a nomadic predator moving by train across the American landscape added a new layer of dread to the mystery. Names like Paul Mueller were brought forward, yet no definitive link could ever be established to the Villisca tragedy. The lack of a smoking gun meant that the case remained officially unsolved, leaving the community in a state of perpetual doubt. More than a century later, the questions remain as sharp and painful as they were on that June morning in 1912. Who truly entered that house? And what dark impulse drove them to extinguish 8 lives in such a brutal fashion? The mystery of the covered mirrors continues to puzzle experts, hinting at a motive that may never be fully understood. Was it a crime of passion, a cold-blooded contract killing, or the work of a deranged mind seeking a gruesome legacy? The victims, who were once vibrant members of their community, are now defined by the tragedy that took them away. The Villisca Axe Murders remain one of the most terrifying crimes in American history because there was no clear motive, there was no proven killer, and ultimately, there was no justice for the 8 innocent people who lost their lives. A family attended church on a quiet summer evening, finding comfort in their faith and the safety of their home. They returned home, expecting an ordinary night, unaware that their lives were about to be cut short by a shadow. Before dawn, 8 innocent people were dead, and the peaceful town of Villisca was changed forever by the violence. The house itself became a silent witness to the horror, standing as a grim monument to the secrets held within. Somewhere in the darkness, the murderer vanished, leaving behind a trail of questions that have never been answered. The legacy of the crime persists, drawing researchers and curious visitors who hope to uncover the truth of that night. Yet, despite the passage of time and the advancements in forensic science, the identity of the killer remains elusive. Every detail of the investigation serves as a reminder of how fragile life can be when faced with inexplicable evil. The story of the Moore family is a haunting echo from the past, a reminder of the darkness that can exist. As we look back, we are left to contemplate the lives lost and the enduring mystery that refuses to fade. The Villisca Axe Murders will forever remain an open chapter in the dark history of American true crime stories. The morning after the tragedy, neighbor Mary Peckham noticed a chilling silence hanging over the Moore house as the usual morning chores remained undone. Concern quickly turned to alarm when no one answered the door, prompting family members to enter the home and discover the horrific scene inside. News of the massacre spread like wildfire through the small town of Villisca, drawing crowds of curious onlookers who gathered around the property within hours. In the ensuing chaos, the crime scene was compromised as dozens of people trampled through the home, inadvertently destroying potential evidence before police could secure it. As the story reached national headlines, the entire country became gripped by a morbid obsession, fueling wild theories and intense public scrutiny of the town. Citizens across America struggled to comprehend how an entire family could be murdered in their sleep without a single scream alerting the neighbors nearby. Rumors swirled through the streets of Villisca, ranging from theories of cold-blooded revenge and business disputes to the terrifying prospect of a random serial killer. Everyone in the community had a theory, yet despite the rampant speculation, no one could provide the concrete proof needed to identify the perpetrator. Suspicions initially turned toward local figures, including business rival Frank Jones, whose long-standing professional conflict with Josiah Moore made him a primary person of interest. Jones had once employed Josiah Moore, and some locals believed a business disagreement had escalated into a plot to hire a professional killer for revenge. However, others dismissed the theory as mere small-town gossip, and investigators never found any definitive evidence linking Frank Jones to the night of the murders. The investigation also focused heavily on the erratic behavior and shifting confessions of George Kelly, a traveling minister who had been in town that night. Kelly's movements were scrutinized, and his own conflicting statements about the crime only served to deepen the mystery surrounding his potential involvement in the tragedy. Despite the intense pressure to solve the case and the numerous suspects brought forward, no physical evidence ever emerged to secure a single conviction. Kelly was tried twice for the murders, but the legal proceedings ended in frustration, with one trial resulting in a hung jury and the second in acquittal. As the years passed, the case grew cold, leaving the town of Villisca to grapple with the heavy burden of an unsolved crime that defined their history. Decades later, researchers began to draw chilling parallels between the Villisca massacre and a series of similar unsolved axe murders across the American Midwest. These investigators noted that entire families were being attacked while they slept, often in towns connected by the same expansive railroad lines of the era. Many of these crime scenes shared hauntingly similar characteristics, such as victims being killed in their beds and mirrors being deliberately covered with cloth. The presence of covered bodies and the lack of theft suggested a ritualistic or deeply personal motive, rather than a simple robbery gone wrong. These connections fueled the theory of a transient serial killer, a phantom predator who moved silently along the tracks, striking and vanishing without a trace. One name frequently mentioned in these historical inquiries was Paul Mueller, though no definitive evidence ever connected him to the specific events in Villisca. The possibility of a roaming killer suggested that the horror was not a local vendetta, but a much larger, more terrifying phenomenon of the early 20th century. Yet, despite more than a century of investigation and modern forensic speculation, the core questions regarding the killer's true identity remain completely unanswered. Investigators still cannot explain why the Moore family was targeted, or why the perpetrator took the time to cover the mirrors and the victims' faces. The lack of a clear motive continues to baffle experts, leaving the case as an open wound in the annals of American true crime history. The Villisca Axe Murders persist as a dark, enduring enigma, a haunting reminder of a quiet summer night that ended in a horror that never faded. Ultimately, the killer remains a shadow in history, a figure who slipped away into the darkness, leaving behind only questions that echo through time. The victims were never granted the closure of justice, and the town of Villisca was forever changed by the events of that fateful June morning. As we look back, the story of the Moore family serves as a somber reflection on the vulnerability of life and the persistence of unsolved mysteries. The house itself still stands, a silent witness to the events of 1912, drawing visitors who hope to understand the truth behind the century-old crime. Perhaps one day, modern technology or new archival discoveries will finally shed light on the identity of the person who entered that home. Until that day arrives, the case remains officially unsolved, a testament to the fact that some secrets are buried deeper than history can reach. The legacy of the Villisca murders is not just the tragedy of the 8 lives lost, but the enduring mystery that surrounds their final moments. We are left to wonder about the quiet evening, the peaceful town, and the sudden violent end that shattered the silence of a summer night. The investigation remains a cautionary tale about the fragility of evidence and the way time can erode the truth of even the most horrific events. Every detail, from the bowl of bloody water to the covered mirrors, adds a layer of complexity that keeps the mystery alive for new generations. Historians continue to pore over the old records, searching for a missed clue or a forgotten testimony that might finally break the long-standing silence. The community of Villisca has learned to live with the notoriety, balancing the memory of the victims with the weight of the unsolved mystery. It is a story that refuses to be forgotten, woven into the fabric of American folklore as one of the most perplexing crimes ever recorded. As the sun sets on the town today, the atmosphere is vastly different, yet the memory of the Moore family remains deeply rooted in the soil. The tragedy serves as a reminder that even in the most peaceful settings, the unexpected can occur, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions. We must consider the impact of such a crime on the families left behind, who spent their lives searching for a truth that never came. The story of the Stillinger sisters, who were merely visiting for a sleepover, adds a layer of profound sorrow to an already devastating narrative. Their lives, cut short in the prime of childhood, represent the true cost of the violence that occurred within those walls so many years ago. The public fascination with the case is not merely about the gore, but about the human need to understand the why behind such senseless acts. Without a motive, the human mind struggles to categorize the event, leading to the endless cycle of theories that have defined the last century. Perhaps the true horror lies in the fact that the killer might have been a neighbor, a a stranger, or someone entirely forgotten by history. The ambiguity of the case is its most powerful feature, ensuring that the Villisca Axe Murders will continue to be discussed for decades to come. As we conclude our look at this mystery, we honor the memory of the 8 victims whose stories were silenced far too soon. Their names, Josiah, Sarah, Herman, Mary, Arthur, Paul, Ina, and Lena, deserve to be remembered beyond the context of the crime that ended their lives. The house stands as a monument to their existence, a place where a family once lived, laughed, and prepared for the future before tragedy struck. It is a sobering thought that the killer walked away, perhaps living a normal life, while the victims remained frozen in that final, terrifying moment. The passage of time has turned the crime into a legend, but the reality of the loss remains as sharp and painful as it was in 1912. We may never know the truth, but the act of remembering is a way to keep the humanity of the victims at the forefront. The mystery of Villisca is a dark chapter that reminds us of the complexity of justice and the limitations of our ability to solve the past. As the investigation closes in our minds, we are left with the chilling realization that some questions may never have an answer. The darkness that swallowed the killer that night remains, a permanent barrier between us and the truth of what happened in that Iowa home. We close this account with a moment of reflection for the 8 souls who never saw the sunrise on that fateful morning in June. The Villisca Axe Murders remain a haunting enigma, a story that will forever linger in the shadows of American history, unsolved and unforgettable.